Thank you. So now we have about 15 minutes left for questions. And if you have a question, raise your hand. Then Claire will come to you with the microphone. And then I hope we can communicate that way. You phrase the question and I will try to give the answer. So who wants to go first? There's a person there. Yes, we see your hand here. You'll come next.
Thank you for a beautiful lecture. I'm tempted to ask you what pi is.
It's not so easy for me to understand you.
Thank you for a beautiful lecture. I'm tempted to ask you what pi is, but I think I better ask instead.
Well, have you ever had gone to a Thanksgiving dinner?
Okay. Are you familiar with the alleged phenomenon of a green flash at sunset?
And the answer is yes.
Can you explain that, please?
I've seen it many times. The explanation is not as simple as you may think. I would suggest, and I mean that seriously, since a short answer is not possible, that you look it up on the web. It's well described. I have seen it many times in Austria, in the mountains, that indeed the last fraction of setting of the sun, that you may, but not always, see a green flash. And if you ever want to see it, you have to be with two people. One person has to be standing next to you, and you should not look at the sun. Because if you look at the sun, even though there's almost no sunlight left, your retina is still too overexposed. And so the person next to you, when you look like this, should say, "Look now!" And then you look, and that's the way it is. There's a question right here. Why don't we take that first? And then there's a woman over there. And this gentleman, also, yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for the lecture. And I was wondering...
As a youngster, I read a book which told me to stare at the sun, then I can change things by staring at things. Now, what I did was, I used to stare at sun at sunset.
You stared at the sun?
At sunset.
At sunset.
For a few...
Not a very good idea. You have to be very careful.
I found out the hard way.
And so you damaged your eyes and you asked for it.
Okay. I got it. But the key thing was that after that I was supposed to stay at a white wall, which I did. But I saw a red,
I know exactly what you saw.
Spot moving around wherever I might.
Probably the spot was not red but green. It's a well-known phenomenon. So you have indeed done something to your retina, and that is the message that is sent to your brains, then tell you the green after effect. It's a very well-known effect. You don't even have to look to the sun. You can even do it with a light like that and stare in that light for some time, and then all of a sudden look at the white wall and you see a different color. It's a very interesting thing. And physics cannot explain that. But you see, this is neurology. And so it's not our responsibility to explain it.
So this is, I guess, a more personal question.
Speak as loud as you can, because I have a hearing disability.
This is a more personal question. I was just wondering, like, what inspired you to become such a great professor?
Why is what?
What inspired you to become a professor, and a great one at that?
Can you translate? I can't hear you.
What inspired you?
Why is what?
What inspired you to become a professor?
Oh, that was luck. I had my training in nuclear physics, and then I had some offers for 1-year postdoc to the United States. And for reasons that are not so clear, I picked MIT because a whole new field was born here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, initiated by Professor Bruno Rossi, who was at MIT, executed beautifully by Riccardo Giacconi, who received not too long ago the Nobel Prize for that. That was the discovery of X-ray astronomy. And even though I knew nothing about astronomy at the time, I decided it was time to change fields. So I accepted the offer at MIT And then, for reasons that are still unclear to me, but George Clark, who is in the audience, knows probably why, they offered me a professorship. And I never left. Does that answer your question? Yeah, you need the microphone here. Oh, we have 10 more minutes, so we can handle quite a few questions.
So I sat in on your lectures here, I think about 20 years ago, and I'd forgotten that one thing that I learned from you was how to draw dotted lines on chalkboards. Which I actually used myself when I was a professor for some number of years, so a very useful skill. But here's what I'd like to ask you. I'd like to ask you when you started teaching physics and how your lectures evolved over time.
What was the last question?
How did your
lectures evolve over time?
Didn't get it.
How did
What?
your lectures evolve over time?
Yeah. I think I was always eccentric. It's true. And so, from day one, my lectures were always different from the mean. But of course, they evolved in a way that grew substantially. And that is not because of the dotting of the line, because I could already do that in high school. Today, there are 100 of my lectures that can be viewed on the web. 2 complete courses. The first course for freshmen, the second course, electricity and magnetism, and the first course for sophomores, vibrations and waves. They are now being viewed daily on average by 6,000 people all over the world, which is 2 million per year. And so every morning when I wake up and during the day, about 24 questions come to me by email from all over the world. Many ask questions, and I answer every single email. But it is amazing that many physics professors want to know how I make those dotted lines. True. There is a 2-minute videotape which someone made. Someone looked at all the dotted lines that I ever drew in 801 and put that in one videotape. It's a riot. You see, brr, 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 brr. True. Okay, we have time for a few more questions. Yeah, Anna. Anna, please use the microphone, although I'm so close to you that I can probably understand you. Anna is my Facebook friend. I have an art quiz on Facebook twice a week. And then my Facebook friends who can answer the questions are always mentioned every day that they have the answer right. Anna is at or near the top. She almost always has it right. And she sometimes writes me email and she says, Walter, I've worked 8 hours on this one. I really have to give up. I don't have more time. Go ahead.
What is your favorite lecture of all the lectures that you've given? Like how you do
I don't have a favorite one. No, I really don't. I love all the subjects, 801 or 802 or 803. No, I really cannot say I have a favorite. If you ask me my favorite artist, we can talk about that. But we do that on Facebook. There is a question here and there's one there. We have still 5 minutes for questions.
Could you talk about your...
Where are we, Claire? Who has the microphone?
Hello? Do I need to turn this on? It's on. I'm wondering how rainbows relate to ray scattering. Do they? And
How rainbows what?
do rainbows have anything to do with ray scattering? And also, why are they round?
Buy my book. It's explained in my book.
Hi. How do you prepare your lectures? How many time do you take to prepare?
It's a very good question. And if I tell you how I prepare them, then my colleagues at MIT are going to hate me. On average, the preparation for one lecture is about 40 to 60 hours.
Wow.
I dry run the lecture in an empty classroom with everything on the blackboard that I'm going to write on the blackboard, pretending that there is a full class in front of me, but there is no one. And I talk to them as if there is one. I do that 2 weeks before the lecture. In general, the lecture is then a little bit too long, so I have to do some surgery. Then 1 week before the lecture, I dry run again. Then I'm very close to the time. And then 5 a.m. of the morning of the lecture, you can ask my wife, I am at MIT, and I give the same lecture, dry run for an empty classroom at 5:30 in the morning, when the lecture is at 10 and the same lecture is at 11. That's the way I prepare. Don't tell my colleagues, they will hate me. By the way, I made an exception for this lecture. I dry run this lecture 6 times. Yeah?
I wanted to know, hi. What advice do you have for a student wanting to become a physicist?
What do you have what?
What advice do you have for students who want to be a physicist?
You have to love it. And if you don't love it, don't touch it. And if you hate it, it is because you had a very bad teacher. I make every student, and not only at MIT, but all over the world, I make them love physics. You can read that in my book, you should buy it. One more question. Okay, one more question. Yeah, this gentleman here.
What do you do for fun besides give lectures?
Art history. It's my love. Physics is my life. Art history is my love. Thank you. So, the book signing will start. You can buy books. You can buy books in the hall, and you can come down. Now, I have one request. Put in the book a piece of paper and write down with very clear letters to whom I address that book. So, if it is for your daughter, and her daughter is Emily, you write for Emily, even though your name may be Peter. I will write in the book for Emily and sign Walter Lewin. If you don't put in a piece of paper, it's going to take so long. A few days ago, I had a book signing, and I didn't ask them for a piece of paper. So here comes someone from Turkey to me, and I said, what is your name? And he said, my name is Atachia. And then I said, how do you spell that? He says, oh, that's very easy. It's A-T-I-T-T-T-A. And then I said, well, it would be better, wouldn't it, if you write it on a piece of paper. And I couldn't even read it. So please write very carefully the name to whom I should address the book.